ASIs develops? Well, an ASI brain is going to be different from our brains because we are limited to, our five senses: eyes, ears, smell, so forth. But an AI is connected to all kinds of light waves and connectedness. For instance, our eyes perceive less than 10 trillionth of all light waves. We can't see gamma rays, but they're out there. X-rays, ultraviolet light, microwaves, radio waves. But an AI would be able to see all of these things. Compared to an ASI's abilities, we would be perceiving the world through a tiny little hole. An ASI can connect to, close caption TV cameras, microphones that are already in place through surveillance equipment, drones, satellites. They can see everything. And if we could see everything, and by the way, I believe that, that higher mind I was telling you about, I believe that's part of what we can do at that highest metaphysical level. A mind like that would be something that our small selves would have a very difficult time competing with. There's a misbelief that once an ASI reaches a level of superintelligence, then it will start to make its own goals and objectives. But it seems that may not be true, because no matter how smart it gets, whatever goals the ASI is programmed originally to do, whether it's to design a better diaper or maximize returns on the stock market or defeat an enemy on the battlefield, once it reaches that level, the goal won't change. It won't create new goals for itself. However, depending on what the goal is, if it senses something in the way of achieving that goal, it will wipe it out without any kind of thought. In other words, if its goal is to defeat enemies on the battlefield, if something is in the way of that happening, perhaps our own soldiers, it will wipe them out as well. So that could pose some risk. So, one thing we do know is that these intelligences will develop, that they will develop similarly to the human brain. They can do things that the human brain can do. And so there's a lot of attention being put to this. And there's a lot of wonky stuff I could get into. I don't want to go on too long because I got to wrap soon. But here's the thing nobody is talking about when we talk about ASIs. We talk about how it can develop like a brain, it can learn like a human brain, it can see and be aware of all these things, but does it have consciousness? Will it have consciousness? That's the question. That's the question they're not even asking. You know why they're not asking it? It's because science does not know what consciousness is. And basically most scientists aren't even interested in the question. The assumption with science as we currently know it, particularly in neuroscience, which is where you would be talking about the brain, traditional science assumes that consciousness is developed somehow in the brain. It is within the brain. That's where consciousness lies. But for consciousness researchers who tend to be, psychologists and so forth, there's a real question about that. And with some of the research that's being done, particularly with use of psychedelics, which is a topic we've had on the show quite a bit, and we'll probably be getting back to. People who've been part of these experiments, their experiences suggest that consciousness may not be within the brain, that consciousness may be somewhere else, outside of us, that in fact there may be an energy in the world that connects us all, that is consciousness, which is what mystics through the ages have always said. It's what Buddhists and other metaphysicians and all kinds of traditions that have a mystical or mystical branch to them. That's what they have always said. There's an energy, a thing that connects us all. And if that's where consciousness is, will an ASI ever be able to connect to that? I don't think so. I don't think so. We may create them, and they may be able to connect to the internet and any other kinds of technology. But again, when we are materialistically focused, we miss the point. And as I've said, traditional science doesn't even seem to be interested that much. But consciousness is really the vanguard of where all of this is. And it really will be the telling point. And as AIs and all of these artificial technologies take off, as we have more, human-like robots or human-like interfaces, that will be the tipping point. That will be the definition. That will be the dividing line. Things that have consciousness, things that are connected to consciousness, as opposed to things that just have intelligence. There's going to have to be a very clear line divided, which just doesn't exist right now. And that's because there's such confusion about what a consciousness is. Many traditionally minded scientists consider consciousness just to be the quality of awareness. But it seems to be something more than that. Having a sense of a selfhood or a sense of soul is more than just being aware. So these are all areas that are going to need to be explored and taken much more seriously than they are now. And these are areas, quite frankly, that most in the scientific community just simply aren't comfortable with at this moment in time. But there are those brave pioneers, and we've talked about them on this show. We'll talk about them again, who are doing it. So consciousness research, to me, is really the pioneering area. So let's see if we can find some predictions about where that is going. Perhaps we'll talk about that next week. But till then, my goodness, another show has come and gone, and we're ready to start a new week. So I wish you health and hope and happiness, awareness, and luck in healing the monster within.